So that's absolutely right. It is becoming a bit of a buzzword since last couple of years. And I'll probably take a step back and even think about some of the businesses and marketing organizations investing so heavily in Martech, and they're buying technology left, right, and center, which is leading to a bit of a data fragmentation. And there is usually a layer that is missing, which is orchestrating, bringing it all together. And for us, CDP is that central layer that brings it all together. It brings in all the data sources for the customer. It brings in all the technologies, all the attributes across different touch points. And in a nutshell, it helps us better understand our customer. And that is very important for us at Sky, to have that deeper understanding of the customer. And that is one of the reasons why we decided to buy a CDP. However, having said that, I would caveat that CDP is not a silver bullet and it doesn't solve all your problems. You still need things like the right decisioning engine, the right content factory model, the right distribution platform. But it does great things if you use it for the right use cases. And that's why we had that sort of initial investment into what are the right use cases, what is the right priorities that we want to focus on from a CDP perspective, and had a very use case based approach on why we even need a CDP. And I think it has worked for us. Every business would have a different list of use cases. Some might think of it as a personalization tool. Some might think of it as cross-sell, upsell, or a way to reduce churn, a way to reduce call center volumes, or even divert traffic from web to app. And the list can go on, and we can be here all evening talking about the use cases. But what works for you, for your business, ultimately matters. It is rather a difficult process, I must admit, because the devil is in the detail when it comes to CDP. And you would look at most of the CDPs in the market, and they can mostly do what you would expect from a CDP. Like, they would ingest data, they would be able to do segmentation, they'll be able to do some reconciliation, expose the data to downstream systems. But then there are a few CDPs that go above and beyond that. And they're the ones who could also do your cross-channel activation and orchestration. They could probably enrich your customer profiles with third-party identifiers, do a bit of an ID graph. So it's only when you look under the hood, you find these value-added functionalities. So that's one way of looking at it from an RFP perspective, in terms of comparing the features and functionalities of different CDPs that there are in the market. And often RFPs do that, right? They compare this thing. But the way we did it was slightly different. We constructed our RFP based on a use case approach. And you're going to hear this word a lot, use cases. We did a bit of, you could call it homework, in terms of doing a bit of brainstorming around what is it that we really want the CDP to deliver, and then reverse engineer that to see, in order for us to get those use cases delivered, what are the features and functionalities we need from our CDP vendor. So that was the approach, where we brought different teams together. We did lots of workshops within our internal teams and came up with a list of these prioritized use cases. And then, of course, after that, it was the usual process of doing a thorough scoring process, understanding which vendor does what, can they deliver the use cases or not. But one very important element of that RFP was also the operating model and the people side of things, which is often overlooked, because CDP brings with it a lot of changes in the organization. So we do ask that question in our RFP as well, like, what is the vendor going to help us with in terms of that change in operating model and in the people aspect of things. And then finally, I would say we ran a POC, and that really helped. Do a 6 to 8 weeks POC to show value, that it works, get the stakeholder buy-in, and then pick up your final vendor that you want to work with. So I think the best thing to do is to start small and then go big. And the way you want to start is, you want to start by identifying the low-hanging fruit in terms of use cases. So as you rightly said, map those use cases on a simple 2x2 matrix, value versus effort. Which are the ones that is unleashing most commercial upside with the least amount of implementation effort. And don't try to achieve all at once, because that is one of the big learnings we had, was don't try to go with this big bang live. Go understand what are the use cases, understand what are the data sources that you need to connect. Don't try to connect all the data sources, and see what can you achieve in a short timeline. Because your stakeholders start getting impatient, they start losing interest, because it could, a full-scale CDP implementation could take up to 12 months, but you don't have that much amount of time. So try to prioritize your use cases. One of the areas I would say is that we know that cookies are going to go away unless Google changes its mind again, but we know they're going to go away in H2 2024. So DMPs are going to become less relevant, and therefore paid channels is an area where you want to start. And most organizations are in a similar state where they're naturally looking at paid media as an area to start to introduce CDP into. But then also widen the sort of customer journeys and rethink about what are the important stages of your customer. Based on your KPIs, it could be around prospecting, it could be around existing customers, or it could be around retention, and see how you could rethink those customer journeys using CDP. And I think we've done that exercise in conjunction with the business, helping them understand what is the value that they would get out of it, almost using the use cases as the currency within our organization to say, with this use cases, you get this million uplift in sales, or this much cost saving. So make it quite quantitative so that the vision is clear in terms of what the benefits are. One of the obvious use cases, as you mentioned, as a quick win is, how do we exclude the customer segments from advertising who have just recently bought your products? It's a very simple use case, but a very effective one, because you don't want your customers to see advertisements of products that they already have. So you could actually save your media budget, and you can reallocate that to a bit more personalized marketing campaign that is more sensible for that customer segment. So those are some of the ones that we think were useful for us in the first life. A CDP is kind of a system that cuts through the fabric of the organization. It really does, right? It really changes a lot of things in the organization. And it's really important that we take the wider organization along with this in the journey. So to your point, we have to make sure right from the start, and we have to start early to make sure that we've got the right buy-in, that all your stakeholders are onboarded with the plan. They understand what the value is, what CDP can do and cannot do, equally important. And then once everyone is on the same page, then you also need to dot the I's and cross the T's. You have to do your due diligence. You have to make sure that you're connecting the data teams, the technology teams, the marketing teams. If you're working with an SI partner, your CDP vendor, you're all coming together as one team, and you're standing there presenting to your stakeholders in one voice, in one sort of tone, saying that these are the use cases we'll deliver. This is the business case attached to it. And this is the plan of how we'll deliver it in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. So I think having that sort of detailed thoroughness in your work automatically reflects that you're very well organized, you know what you're doing, you have a clear vision and plan, and then people generally get attracted to you and wants to be part of your team as well. And not to say there are going to be challenges in every program like we did as well, but as long as you have the right stakeholder buy-in, you have the right team on it, and you have a clear plan and a vision, ultimately things would work out in the end. So I think that's all I have to say. But there are definitely going to be factors that you won't be able to control at the end, right? But you have to take things as they come. So I think it is very important that we understand what happens after the cookies will go away, and the importance of first-party data, because that is going to be quite key in understanding how do you actually ensure that your marketing spend is being spent most efficiently and effectively. DMPs are becoming less relevant. So how do you want to use CDP to maximize the usage of your first-party data is going to be quite critical. And working alongside your consent management platforms, making sure that you've got the right approvals from your data privacy people, your compliance, your security, and taking them on board on this journey with you to make sure that you have a unified approach towards this is the key to this. So we're using Zeotap CDP, and we went through a very, very strict sort of due diligence process of evaluating different vendors and what are the different features and functionalities that different CDPs have to offer, the best of breed versus the best of suits. But eventually we agreed on using Zeotap as our preferred CDP partner of choice.